What is up, guys? My name is Dylan McKay, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Tomb Raider Archives books. So yeah, welcome to the channel. This is basically just going to be a new series where I review whatever I find interesting: comics, movies, music, maybe video games, just random collectible things that I like to collect, and I find that I search for these videos on YouTube all the time, just giving me like a product review almost. Just, is this something I want to buy? How does it look when it's in somebody's hands? And so I'm pretty much just going to go over things like that, show you guys these books, kind of give you a little bit of my thoughts on them, keep it pretty spoiler free, and yeah, let's jump right in. These are what we're reviewing today. There's 4 volumes. Now, these did come out 2 years ago, so they're actually pretty hard to get now. I was lucky enough to snag them in November of 2018, so not too long after they were released, and Amazon was selling them for like $25 a pop, which is pretty crazy because, I mean, look at how big this thing is. This is massive. This is the most like oversized comic book that I have. It's got like a nice sewn binding, and honestly, this is so well done that even the book cover price of $39.99 is just an incredibly good value in my opinion. The sad part about that is this book runs for a little over $200 now, maybe $300. You'd have to get pretty lucky to get it around that price. Volume 2 is a similar like $200 aftermarket price. I think you can still get volumes 3 and 4 for relatively cheap. They're just not quite as popular as the first 2 volumes, but yeah, so this review is obviously a little late because if you're watching this to see if you're interested in buying them, you're probably not going to want to pay that much money for them unless you're crazy and you want to do that. That's totally cool. When I was a kid, I was always like really interested in comics, but I never really had that many comics. Like when you're a kid, you kind of just get whatever your parents can get you when you go to a comic shop. Like my dad used to take me to a comic shop inside of Cottonwood Mall in Utah, which has completely been demolished. Not just the store, but the entire mall. The Tomb Raider comics ran from '99 to 2005. I probably got into them like when maybe 2000 or 2001. I was 8 or 9 years old, and basically one of the first like trade paperback comics I ever got. And if you don't know much about comics on this channel, I'm assuming you do because you probably searched for a Tomb Raider Archive volume collection, so you obviously know what you're doing. But a trade paperback is just like usually a collection of 4 or 6 issues that compile into one story out of like an ongoing run. So one of the very first comic books I ever got, or trade paperbacks, was this Tomb Raider Mystic Artifacts. I read this thing over and over again. Another thing that I would do is I was like really into drawing, so I would actually draw and create like my own comic books. And I had created my own Tomb Raider comic, and I used to just draw like basically all the big splash pages in this. I had drawn at some point seriously every picture in this book. So anyways, that's kind of like the history for me. It's like this was one of the first trade paperbacks I ever had. I never read the rest of the ongoing series. Like when you're a kid, I never really was able to go and just collect and buy stuff on my own. At least my dad got me this, and the only other 2 trade paperbacks I ever got were The Amazing Spider-Man and Wolverine. So basically these were my favorite superheroes as a kid. I loved Wolverine and I loved Spider-Man. This is kind of the first video I'm doing, so that's I'm explaining a little bit more about myself and my interest in comics. Let's get into this, what you actually came to the video for. So this is the Tomb Raider Archives Volume 1. Just to give you a comparison to a trade paperback here, look at the difference in size. Just to give you a comparison, it kills me to have something that doesn't line up. Like if I were to only get like 2 of the 4 of these and I had to pick up the rest in trades or something, that would be kind of frustrating for someone like me. But yeah, I think it's really nice how these line up. The first volume is filled with a lot of Andy Park artwork, who is the guy who did this picture on the front. As you can see, introduction by Andy Park there. And this here picture on the back. He does most of the art in this, which I think is is just some of the most beautiful art. So I do think Volume 1 and Volume 2 are the best in here. But yeah, this one Andy Park does a good chunk of as well, but then it goes on to quite a few different artists throughout it. And some of the artists, like after Andy Park, there are some that kind of bother me in the way that they draw Lara, but honestly, going through them, like I thoroughly enjoyed reading 1 through 3. 1 through 3 collects issues 1 through 50, so the full story is just through the first 3. Volume 4 collects like all of your single issues, special editions, or mostly the side series called Journeys that was going, I think it was from like 2002 to 2004, like in the midst of the ongoing, 2001, 2003. But I actually struggled. I started with Journeys, but the artwork was driving me nuts and the writing was just not that great, so I kind of skipped out on that and just read the single shots and the special editions from this collection here. So this is Journeys. I mean, look at that. I mean, what? People don't look like that. And there's some really, really good art and some different kind of ideas on some of those other single issues in here. Arabian Nights, this story is really cool, and I mean, just look at how cool the art is. It's nice, unique, different art here. Billy Tan. Yeah, this Billy Tan art, I love it. Greatest treasure of all. The art in this one is incredible. Joe Jusko. I mean, look at how realistic this stuff is. I mean, come on, this is unreal. I don't even know, this is like photo real picture here. But 12 of the issues are Journeys, which I pretty much just couldn't get through, couldn't stand. So Volume 4, if there is one to skip, Volume 4, you'd skip The Collector and Me, and I'm guessing The Collector and You would probably want to have Volume 4. I think you'd still get this one for $25. There are a few crossover events that happened with like Witchblade and a few other characters that don't actually show up in these Tomb Raider archives, and that's because those other properties are not owned by Dark Horse. They were originally Top Cow Comics, and I believe some of them are with, I think Witchblade is like with Image now. So unfortunately, there is like one story arc called Endgame that is missing from here, which is just kind of the big crossover event. So that was a bit of a bummer, but you can also pick those up online, like the single issues, super cheap if you're interested in reading it. But most of these Tomb Raider comics, most of the Tomb Raider stories, they actually don't really heavily influence one another. They're kind of separated. And I think that's part of the reason like I enjoy them so much. Like they remind me of like James Bond movies or Indiana Jones movies, where once you're into one story, it kind of sucks you into the adventure and the idea there, and they're just really fun, kind of secluded single stories, and then you move on to the next one and the next adventure. And I found them very easy to read. Like it's not the most incredible writing, but it is very fun and engaging, and I definitely recommend them. So around Volume 3, it does get a little bit tired because the formula starts to kind of repeat itself, but they did end in issue 50 here, so it wasn't I think they ended at a proper time before it got too tired. And now I think Dark Horse actually has their own Tomb Raider story that they started publishing in like 2013, based on the newer video games and with that Lara Croft character. I've heard mixed things about those because I've looked into maybe reading them. Unfortunately, like the art's not super great. That bothers me a lot. I mean, I really like the aesthetic. I like looking at good art. So that's kind of a bummer. But anyways, these are the Tomb Raider archives. Thank you for watching the video on the channel. I hope you kind of got what you were looking for here and got to see inside these books a little bit. I definitely recommend them. I think that they're super fun reads, so check it out. Keep watching the channel. We should have some new videos coming up soon. I'm going to have some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle videos, Power Rangers videos. I'm going to start reviewing things too, like movies and music. I do collect a lot of vinyl, so I'll probably be reviewing some records. But thanks for stopping by, and catch you on the flip side.